I've still got loads of these Savoy cabbages and broccolis in 9cm pots. And it's bad enough that it's so cold, things are barely growing. But at the same time, if we leave them in these little pots and don't give them chance to grow more roots, they're going to grow even slower. You can see this one has got roots coming out at the bottom there. And these leaves at the side are about done. I can just take them off and leave a better looking plant. Which I've already done on this one as well. But they're getting too big now to be in 9cm pots. So as cold as it is and uninviting, we've got a warmer top on today. And I think it's time we move these on, because we have got quite a few of them. Again, some pretty poor looking leaves on this one. We'll take those away. Even this big one, it's all gone yellow now, it's no good. Get rest that plant a fighting chance by getting rid of decaying leaves, which is basically just an invitation for slugs. We have already potted one or two on into bigger containers like this, because then we know they can last that bit longer until we're ready to put them outside, which is definitely not going to be this week. And then eventually they end up in these big pots, 10 to 12 litre ones, and we'll leave them in there until they reach maturity, and hopefully we'll get a nice little cauliflower or cabbage head from it. At this time of year we're not looking for massive rewards. That's a Savoy cabbage as well, and again we've moved it into a 10 litre pot. So what we need to do is decide where we're going to move them to. Also bearing in mind that they've been in these 9cm containers for quite a while, so over that period of weeks or even months, they're draining all the nutrients out of that compost, so they'll be looking for some extra feed. Otherwise, again, they're not going to grow. So by potting them on into fresh compost, we're giving them that extra boost of nutrition and extra room for root growth. So that plant, slowly as it may be, can start to get that bit bigger. We don't want them to go dormant or restrict the root growth in any way. So for this morning, that's what I'm going to be doing. And at least I know that's been done. And hopefully this weather's going to start to improve. It's got to at some point. I've got lots of various size pots which I've collected over the last few years, because a lot of them obviously we reuse. And I've got some of these square 9cm pots. And we've also got little round 9cm pots as well. But these are the ones that I'm going to be using. These are 2 litre. So my plan is, things like these, I'll now move into that. And that's lots of room to help this plant out. But I've also got some of these broccoli plants, which I admit don't look the best. But the longer I leave them in these little cells, the worse they're going to get. And they're still good plants, they just need tidying up and moving. They've been left a little bit longer than they should have been. So for the sake of a little bit of compost, we might as well tidy these plants up and get them moved on. Because if we don't, they're just going to start and bend. Like these ones here. They'll get a bit of a bend on them, and then they won't go into the ground properly to stand upright. So I plant them really deep to help with that. And I've got the same on Savoy cabbages as well. Smaller seedlings, but still at a point where I think we could think about moving them on. And the same with these ones. So while we can't really sow any seeds because it's way too cold to expect anything to germinate, we can spend as time looking after the things that we've already previously grown. Because as soon as we move these on, the better off they're going to be. We don't want to be growing plants all this time through all that harsh weather to end up with nothing just for the sake of moving them on into a bigger container. So those plants can be moved into these. And these plants now get moved into those. And that's a worthwhile job to be doing on a Monday morning. Because don't forget that bad weather is on its way this week. We talked about that yesterday. Tuesday, -5. So hopefully you've dug your fleece back out if you've put it away, because you're definitely going to need it this week. So we'll fill some of these containers up and then we'll get these brassicas repotted and we'll plant them that little bit deeper to make them stronger plants at the same time. So we've got us composting, and we like to really firm it down as well, because brassicas don't like growing in loose compost. It makes them go to one side. But we do need to make a nice big hole in the centre for this plant to go in. And then we can just pop this plant out and have a look at this root system as well. So you can see them roots are now starting to go around the bottom. It's not root bound at the moment, but if we leave it much longer, it will be. So if we just rough the bottom of this plant up like that, you're going to release all those roots. So they'll now grow a lot better. And then we can pop his plant into his container, and you'll notice that I push it really deep down, forcing it down into a really solid bed. And then what we'll do is we'll still fill around the base of this plant with extra compost. Make that plant even more stable. And it'll not hurt to bury them a little bit deeper either. Especially when you're at beginning of season and the light levels are low, you might end up with plants that have started to stretch, what we call going leggy. But it's simple enough to do, to just take them and bury them deeper and take that stretch out of your plants if that's what's happened. So you can see we really packed that down. And now we've got a really nice stable plant that's going nowhere, and it's got loads and loads of room to grow. And then I'll just top dress it with a bit of slow release fertiliser as well. There's loads of nutrients in this fresh compost that we've bought. It's got about 4 months worth of feed in it, but we can get a little bit extra. It's not going to hurt. And then I'll just give it a quick water. That tiny amount of water is plenty. Because we've got that freezing weather coming, the less water you've got in your compost, the better. Because you don't want this entire thing freezing into a solid block, because you're running at risk of killing roots of your plant like that. So while that weather's like it is, minimum watering if any, but that's one done. When it comes to these other plants, it's the same sort of thing, but we make sure we bury them really deep, right down to there. We're going to remove all that stem from this plant so it's not wobbling around, and make it a nice solid upright one. So if I just take one out, you can see what I mean about that stem bending, and we don't want that. We only want that part. So what I'll do is I'll rough this up as well, and that's removing a lot of the compost. So it's exposing the root system, but you're not damaging your plant doing that. That makes it easier to work with. And then we'll fill up one of them 9cm pots. But we haven't completely filled it, as you may notice, because we want to sink this plant right down and try and keep it central at the same time, the best we can. So I always start by planting it right to one side, so that when we bend it straight, it looks more like it should do. And then I'll just fill around that plant as I go. And you can see that I'm completely burying that stem. This leaf, again, doesn't look very good. So we might as well get rid of that now, because it'll not get any better. So it's in fresh compost. It's got enough room now to stay in there for quite a few weeks if needs be. We want to get them outside as soon as we can, but we don't want to be putting them straight outside in -5 temperatures. And now you can see what a massive difference that's made to that plant. It's nice and stable. So now it's going to grow a lot straighter and a lot stronger. And that's basically all you need to do. To take your brassica plants from that to that looks 100% better. So we'll just do that with the rest of these plants, and then I think we've done a good job for today. So same again, let's get rid of all this compost, because we really need to straighten this one up, because it's got a really long bent stem on it. So same as before, we'll push it down and we'll try and keep it as central as we can. And then we'll backfill on it, just like before. It's perfectly fine to do this with your brassicas. Just be careful that you don't break that stem when you do it. Just ease it to one side and then fill around. All time firming it down as you go. And again, that looks a lot better, stronger plant. Because if you plant them in ground with those bends in the stem, as they grow they're going to fall to one side. And obviously if that's going to be laid on damp compost, it's going to start and rot all one side of your cabbage. So you might as well straighten them as you go. So although the weather is very uninviting at the moment, it's important to get these little jobs done. That one now can stay in that container until we decide to move it on into an even bigger container like we have done these. Or we might just pop it outside in a raised bed. But we know for now it's got weeks and weeks in this container before we even have to think about moving it on. And then as little plants that we're trying to grow on have now been moved into 9 centimetres, and again they can stay in here for quite a few weeks. So if you've got little things like that that need to be done, now is probably a really good time to start doing them, since it's not fit to be sowing seeds at the moment or planting things outside. So whatever you've got indoors, try getting those potted on and cleaned up as well, so that you're giving them the best start for when spring does finally arrive. And don't forget, minus temperatures hitting all week, so get your plants covered up with fleece, or there's a very good chance that you'll lose a lot, and we don't want that. We've got a few more jobs that we're going to be doing this week as well, just to help the plants that we've already grown along, and maybe at some point we might sow some more seeds to put indoors, because that's the only place you can hope for any kind of germination at all at the moment. So if you want to see what we do through the rest of this week, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.